I know we've all been there, done that, where you're in bed sometimes and you're like, oh, I really don't want to go to work today. Or where you're fond of uniform, you're like, oh, I can't be out to go placement tomorrow. We've all been there and done that. So in this video, I'm just going to be showing you guys a handful of tips that you can do to ensure that you guys have the best shift as possible. And all of these tips and what I'm going to share is going to be directed at thyself. And the reason why it's going to be directed at thyself, at oneself, is simply because you can't control what other people do. You can't control what happens when you get to work. You can't control, to a certain extent we can control it, we can put measures in place. You're only human. Like I said, it's going to be directed at thyself. Just little tips that I found that just kind of put me in a better mood at the start of my shift, throughout the duration of my shift, and also at the end of my shift. So the first thing that I would suggest is to try and arrive for your shift at least 10 minutes early. Arriving for your shift at least 10 minutes early means that you've got enough time to get your uniform on properly. I don't know, spray yourself down if that's what you do, get your hair done properly. It just gives you enough time to put your stuff in the fridge, to sit down, have a quick cup of tea, a quick cup of coffee if that's what you like to do, and it just makes you feel, yes, I'm prepared. In comparison to arriving at your shift 2 minutes before you have to start, you can't find your Crocs because somebody else might have worn them, there's not enough space, the key for your lock is jammed, and now you can't get, you're literally just starting on like a bad level. You're starting on a bad energy level. So I feel like by arriving for your shift at least 10 to 15 minutes before you start and giving your time to relax, when you do go out and when you do take handover, you know where you are. You're not, you know, sweating and rushing and thinking, oh, food's in my bag and it's going to go off because it should be in the fridge. You're relaxed. You're starting on a good level. The next thing that I would suggest doing is make sure you have enough food for the entirety of your shift, or make sure you have a way that you can easily get food. So that might be you bringing in food by yourself through your packed lunch, or it could be you having money, making sure you have card or cash payment depending on what the canteen has, and going down and getting food. Because the worst thing, one of the most annoying blah shifts, is when you didn't bring any food. And I just want to say that if that has happened to you, because it has happened to me too many times, it is entirely your fault. That's literally all I can say. That's what I mean about a lot of these tips are going to be directed at thyself, because ourselves are what we can control. We can control ourselves a bit more than we can control the environment around us. I find that when I have a blast shift, it's because I didn't bring any food. It's literally because I didn't bring any food, and now I've got to go downstairs, spend 10 minutes of my break waiting in line to get my food, come back up, I'm just £10 short because the food in the canteen is so expensive. And I'm just like, if I just brought food in myself, I would have saved so much money, the food probably would have been healthier, and I would have had a longer break. But I always had the idea that lunch had to be completely different from dinner. And I remember one time I didn't have 2 different meals, so I went into work, I had enough for breakfast and I had food for lunch, but I didn't have anything for dinner because I just felt I don't want to have the same thing for lunch and dinner. Come dinner time, I'm thinking, I've got nothing to eat now. I could have just taken a second portion of this potato thing that I made and I would have had enough food for lunch and dinner. But because I thought, oh, I can't have the same thing for lunch and dinner, the second half of my shift was just kind of like blah, because I didn't have any food for dinner. I had to go downstairs to the canteen. And at that same day, there was like a healthcare assistant, and I noticed, because we had our breaks and our lunches at the same time, I noticed she had her lunch and her dinner and they were the exact same thing, and she looked as happy as Larry. And here I was thinking, wow, I could have just done what she done. The next thing you can do is make sure you go in with a can do and a will do attitude. By that I basically just mean go in with a positive attitude. If you've already started your shift, or if before you start your shift you're already thinking, oh, this is going to be the worst shift ever, I don't want to be here, this is just so annoying, you're already living that experience. How many times have you been like, oh, this is so bad, I'm not looking forward to it, it's going to be so hard, and then you go in and do it and it's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's good, but you've already lived that negative experience, so don't relive negative experiences by telling yourself it's going to be a bad shift. Go in with a positive go in with a positive mindset. Tell yourself it's going to be a good shift, tell yourself it's going to be a good day, and you know, trust me, it will be a better day than if you'd gone in thinking, oh, it's going to be shit, it's going to be horrible, I don't want to be here. Nah, just go in with a positive mindset, you know. It's possible. Positive things will happen to you because you're positive. People will see that positive energy. Some people will try to ruin it, and some people will try to join it. Exude positive energy. Give out positive energy so that you can receive positive energy. If you're just, you know, negative on the inside, thinking everything's gonna be negative, and you're reliving negative experiences and you're just giving out negative experiences, you're going to get negative experiences back. You're going to get negative things back. So be positive, not just with your nursing, but with every part of your life. Try and be as positive as possible. Another thing that I will suggest is what I'm doing right now, and that is smiling. smiling, smiling, smiling. Especially if you've already started your shift and your shift might not be great, just smile for a second, because when you smile, it triggers something in your head, and then you start thinking of positive things. For example, let's just say that I'm really busy, the shift at work is really bad, I'm in a jog room, I'm just taking a minute to myself, and I'm like, what am I going to do next? Just smile. And then because I'm smiling, I'll start thinking about something that happened the other day or something that happened this morning that was really positive, and that will just put me in a better mood. So just smile. Sometimes it can be hard to smile, trust me, I've been there, done that. I remember at some other place that I was working, it was so stressful all the time. I couldn't smile because it was a case of give me something to smile about. Sometimes you're in a situation where it's like you can't even smile because it's like there's nothing to smile about. You see when people say smile, it's like, give me something to smile about. Like, it's so stressful. What do you mean smile? But trust me, just smile. 9 times out of 10, it works. Unless you're in a really stressful environment, unless it's been like a very, very, very bad day. But 9 times out of 10, it hasn't been like a very, 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 very bad day. It might have just been, 1 minute of your day that was really bad, and now you're just basically stretching out that 1 minute to like the whole entire day. Don't do that, because that's just lame. The next thing that I would suggest is making sure you have a good pair of shoes. The reason why I suggest this is because if you're on your feet for like 12, 13 hours out of the day, and you've got like a crappy pair of shoes, you're going to have a bad day, and you're going to be thinking, why do I have a bad day? There's been certain times where it's like, I've got a massive headache, and I'm like, oh, my head really hurts, like, why is this day going like this? And I think to myself, but have you had any water? The same thing can happen with a bad pair of shoes. You're like, oh, I'm having a bad day, like, I just don't feel right. And then you think, my feet really hurt, and it's like, okay, that's because you're wearing training shoes, or that's because you're wearing dolly shoes, when really you should be wearing shoes that are catered to what it is that you'll be doing over the entirety of your shift. So make sure you drink water, and make sure you have the correct pair of shoes. And even if it is the correct pair of shoes, make sure you've worn them in. I remember I had a pair of nursing shoes, and the first couple of weeks I had them, they were mad uncomfortable because I hadn't worn them in. But after I'd worn them in, they were super, super comfortable. So if you do have a new pair of shoes, make sure you wear them in before you actually take them onto the ward, before you actually use them out in real life. I just want to quickly touch upon a point I mentioned earlier about, did you really have a bad day, or did you just have 1 hour or 1 minute that was really bad, and now you're stretching it out the whole entire day? Don't do that. If you're having a bad day, or if you feel that you're having a bad day, just take a minute to yourself. You don't even have to do this on your break. Just take a minute to yourself in a jog room. Just sit in a jog room, or just stand there for a minute and think, okay, I think I'm having a bad day. What is it that made me feel like I'm having a bad day? And did you really have a bad day? Was it one consecutive bad thing after the other for the whole of the 13-hour shift? Or was it just kind of like 3 or 4 not so nice things that happened? And then once you've identified that, you realize that, oh, I actually haven't had a bad day. It's just been 1 hour that wasn't really nice. Or it just could be a case of the fact that you had 12 hours that were fantastic. Like, all the other nurses are envying you because that 12 hours was amazing, but then the last hour wasn't as great. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.